delighted to introduce Wirichada Pan-Ngum from Mahidol University and the University of Oxford, who's going to talk a bit about lower middle income countries during COVID. And as we know, that was one of the striking features of having a pandemic, is you really get to see many different responses and many different situations. And so I'm sure we've got a lot to learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dada. And good morning, everyone. And like all of us, very great pleasure to be here. So thanks again for the organizer to invite me here. So my name is Wirichada Pan-Ngum. I'm based at Mahidol Oxford Tropical Medicine Research Unit back in Bangkok. And I'm also affiliated with Oxford. And just to add, I'm also the co-chair of the EDI in our unit. So just before I talk about the general topics, like what Justin was saying, like lots of ideas, but results may be a little bit small, and also slow. I just want to first mention about my research. So a lot of my research work are very regional health related questions. I work on hepatitis C screening strategy back in Thailand, because the strategy has now been implemented, but there's a long way to go on how to make it achievable and successful. I also work on and specific group of population that I'm trying to get in and work on is prisoners, which I think is very little research going on the prisoners' health. So that will be very useful and very interesting modeling work. I also work a lot with people from the cross-border areas where things can be quite different. For example, looking at the gestational weight gain in pregnant women in that region, where the stature of the population, especially on the height of those women, are actually below the standard, and so they never get into those guidelines when making the guideline for weight gain in pregnancy. Work on hepatitis B, like maybe many other people, on the vertical transmission and how we can successfully get to the elimination phase of hepatitis. And then lastly, broad work on just dog population control, which is one of the areas that especially in Bangkok, where they really want to try to sort out the community and having some free roaming dogs, happily living within the community, and we call this community dog project. So there's also room for some modeling of sterilization strategies, for example. So as much as I like my research, I would like to take the privilege of standing here to talk more about something that reflecting on a lot of work of the modelers in the low middle income country. And I like it to invite all the other colleagues from low middle income countries to participate when we have the discussion, if possible. So throughout this week, I think we learned that all the challenges that we have, doesn't matter whether it's high income, low income. I think one thing that we always face is the communication. I think people cannot reject that communication is very important. And my experience working as a modeler in my country for more than 15 years, I'm very surprised to see modeling work being in the central of the universe in a lot of conversations. For example, my unit, we work quite a lot on malaria research. So we have a lot of people doing malaria on the treatment, on the drug development, on the vaccines. But when coming together, it's because of the modeling work that can bring people together, thinking about malaria elimination. And I asked, we have so many these weapons, how are we going to eliminate it? And people just looking at each other and haven't got a clue on thinking about towards the elimination of malaria. So I think being the central of a lot of research, when it comes to the disease specific, we communicate with all these people, and I'm not surprised that it can be very challenging when talking about the same disease but different interests. And so I think we just have to keep working on that. Especially, I think it becomes even more challenging when we think about this in a short time frame. So some of you might have seen this graph. This is just a cartoon that expresses, how modeler work in a two phase. Like you can be working on in the emergency pandemics emergency where your work has to be done within a short time frames, but it creates a lot of impact. And also it's possible that usually we would be working in a much longer time frame with nice and more pleasant, but the impact maybe is slightly low. And I think in those two situations, things can be quite different. The challenge that some challenge may become more significant, like communicating with people who have different disciplines. How do you do that within a short time? How do you create a high impact with the modeling work when you only have a short time to do work and also to talk to people? Just to emphasize a little bit more on that, the modeling process, everyone who do the modeling know this whole process, takes a while. It's not going to be done within a few days. So this whole process takes a long time, but with my experience during the pandemic, this is what I also get. The data will be coming on Saturday morning. Can you present some results on Sunday afternoon? and you want to get on that trend, or you want to say, no, I have enough of it. It's a very, very frustrating time for me when I have to work in that situation. And another thing I like to mention is people talk about challenges that they have in high-income country. And I'm not happy that you have the same challenge, but in a way, I'm kind of relieved that we all have the same challenges. And what maybe seem unclear in the high-income setting, I have to say is even unclearer in the low-middle income setting. And this is what I think sometimes I feel like I can't see why are we doing it, and how are we going to get to the end. And I think trying to think what reasons why we are having so much trouble. I think I wouldn't blame on other people, but also experience of modelers in low-middle income country is quite relatively low compared to how things have started much longer in this country, for example. So we have very limited understanding and also the experience handling the situation. We have limited resources. My team is just 5 people. Only 3 of us are modelers. So when we are trying to do a lot of work, I think we struggle a lot. So human capital I think is the main challenge that we have in our setting. Apart from that, like everyone else has problem with data, we also have problem with data. We also have problem with the financial, the budget. A lot of work that I've done with the government, I have to say I do it for free. So it's part of my passion to try to do something with the modeling. And yes, I mean, these are all things that we have been discussed throughout this week, non-transparent of the process. We don't know what we have given to them is actually useful. They never get any feedback back to us. And also, I think the work culture that we have in Asia is still needing a lot of improvement. People doing things on their own a lot. And then we have to come together. The communication is a real issue. So these are the 2 areas of challenges that I think people have mentioned. So I'm not going to touch on that, but I would like to mention more on the people side. So like I said, I think at least in Thailand, I always see the same modelers in every meeting, and it's about 10 of us. So I'm very grateful to be here and making new modelers friends every day. It's very hard to recruit some modelers in the country because people have done mathematics as a single subject, never have experience doing any modeling work. So coming into, persuading someone to come and take this as a career is very hard. And I'm not convincing them with the situation that we have. So I cannot say this is the best job you can have, right? And I don't know about the demand and supply for modeling. I mean, we are working hard on that, but this is not depending on any person. So I think we have to admit that we are at this point doing what we can, and we are having the community like this that could also like improving things. So we are not doing it all by ourselves. On the other side, the leadership is very, very important. I would like to emphasize on how we can harmonize the working environment, throughout the community, not just the low middle income country should be working on their country by themselves, but we do get a lot of people mixed working together. So I think what we are doing here is actually trying to harmonize the working environment, making it more, effective, the way we work together, and multidisciplinary and other subjects. Also international networks, that's what I have been doing a lot. And actually one thing of coming here is to find out what is a 1 month meeting like, basically. We never done this sort of activities in our networking, before. So it's very interesting to see how people can start mixing together in that. And finally, the research culture is very important. So a lot of good things happen throughout these weeks, and I've been doing some of this back in my own workstation as well. So we've been looking at EDI, and I think I took this from other subjects, but I think it's very relevant what the keywords are there. So it doesn't matter what topic or what subjects we are working on, the EDI is the EDI. If you put it into action, this is the positive things that we can get. Just on the harmonization work, this is what I've taken from my colleagues Jackie and Fatuma on the policy brief that they have in African setting, and I think we no difference from them in terms of having the 5 components that would help improving the local working environment. And this is emphasized on the modeling, which is good. And just to point out what they are. So capacity building, we talk about that. Data infrastructure, we also talk a lot that. Sustainable funding, this is one thing that I personally think very important, how we relied on grant agencies to give us money to do something for 5 years, 3 years, 5 years, and after that what happens. So I am always very in favor of having some local co-funders to kind of co-funding some projects to make it and their ownership of the project as well as the researcher. So I mean, our government is not that rich, but hoping that this can come more and more in terms of co-pay, co-funding, and making them feel like this is also their job and their work to help sorting out the health issue in the country. Creating the evidence, how do we make modeling more significant in terms of linking up with the policy decision. And finally, the knowledge translation, how we can prepare the platform to translate the knowledge into the policy making. I think we have quite a lot to learn from high-income country. So a lot of positive things happening, and it's happening really, really fast in the past few years. We now have our MIT-C, which is the modeling infectious disease in Southeast Asia. So it's lots of, I think we cover almost all the country in Southeast Asia. Maybe 1 or 2 that we still need to identify at least a modeler there. But this is just happening last month at a summer school that we have, and we have 70 participants from all over different countries, and mostly young modelers who very eager to learn things. We have the Lancet Commission, and I know a lot of you are here also part of that. This is to think about how to strengthening the modeling capacity for during the pandemics. We have also another network called Spark, which is the specific for the Asia-Pacific regions, and these are the main collaborators with the Australian group, and there's have been a very nice collaboration over the past 5 years. Now we're working together, and most excitingly, NTM, most of you have heard of, we have a first international infectious disease modeling coming up in November, and everyone very welcome. And lastly, I would say I'm based in Bangkok, very busy city. And if anyone, pass by to Bangkok, would like to have a quiet corner to check your email or sit and do work, you're very welcome to contact me. I am at the Faculty of Tropical Medicine, where Moru or Mahidol Oxford is also based. And I have had a very great network of OTN Oxford Tropical Network meeting, which happen every 1 or 2 years, and I think some people here also part of this network. So when I came here, I feel really much like comfortable and get knowing a lot of people here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pan. Lots of interesting topics. Any questions? No. Oh, Carl, go ahead.
Thanks, Jeff, for the talk. Can you go back to the slide with like the 5 factors going into? That one. So I like the framing here, but to what extent is there sort of recognition both amongst the modelers and like that consumers of that routine use of reliability, et cetera, that this framing sort of suggests, have all these things and then you'll get routine use of reliable time or whatever. But also there's a feedback mechanism, right? As soon as you're routinely producing, then the consumers realize, this is why I pay for data infrastructure. This is why I pay for modelers, because it gives me this thing of value. So can you talk a little bit about how the reverse direction is understood and thought?
Yes. So this is it's a long-term process, like getting into the relation. So I'm mainly talking about the Ministry of Health people, for example. So getting into the relationship to offer to do something for them to start with, and that's very helpful starting point. Like do what we can, right? And then they start seeing the value of the modeling. There will be some people who just need to identify who those are. It's not everyone that always, in favor of modeling work. But once you get to the key persons, and I've noticed this is always the case in Asia. It's like find the key persons. Once you get to that, things can be going really, really well. So they realize the importance of collecting good data. I've been working with them for more than 10 years, and it's been like back and forth, give and get from them. Also, I found what is really helpful is to help nurture young modelers. It could be like PhD students, for example. This is a very good activities that we do together, and everyone's happy working together. But I have to say I have a privilege to do this. There are still a lot more modelers, like pure mathematical modelers, that wanting to have this conversation. So I'm not sure how we can get to them, or should we get to them. That's something I need to work a bit more on.
Yeah, I think we have a bit of a problem, and probably some other people in the room have experienced this in our setting, where those consumers are like, this stuff is just around. Right? Like, we can just go to the modelers and they'll tell us stuff, and they don't make the connection that we come from somewhere, and that somewhere is funding things.
Right. Is that because there are too many? I don't know. Sorry, but I just trying to understand. That could be our next future problems.
You did call on your colleagues from other LMICs to comment.
Yes.
There's a huge amount of time, but if anybody did want to add from their experience, but equally I don't want to put any of you on the spot, so I'm deliberately not making eye contact.
Yes, I don't think I cover every issue. We still... Yes?
I'll just say from the South African context, we were actually really lucky in that the South African government had been investing in epidemiological modeling for 15 years. And 2023 was sort of the end of that period of funding, well, actually 18 years. And so they had made this long-term investment, but they still had that disconnect because after the pandemic, after having relied really heavily on the modeling team for 3 years straight, they then sort of said, okay, well, now you should be able to find your own funding. We're going to stop funding this from within the government. So I do think it's a big problem, and that sort of understanding of the need for the resources in order to support the stuff that they want is somehow there is a disconnect there.
Maybe that's one good thing that we don't get their money from start.
Great, thank you very much.